And joining us now with his reaction and reflection on all of this news is Mike Leon, NTD News contributor and host of the podcast, Can We Please Talk? Mike, always great to have you on. Let's start with that Challenger report, right? Over 275,000 layoffs just in March. And that's a 205% increase from March of 2024. Now, that report, as we just heard there, it says a vast majority of these cuts are coming from DOGE. So do you think this is going to become a trend that we're going to see over the coming months?
Hey, Fiona, good to see you as always. Look, anytime something is cut 7 times from the previous year, we should all have our eyes wide open like those cartoon characters, when a train's about to hit them, because either there really is malfeasance going on within the department and there really is waste, fraud, and abuse, or there's a lot of cuts that are being made that are going to be needed to be rectified over the coming months after Musk leaves as a special government employee, as you just outlined before, at the end of May. So I read it that it's probably a little bit in the middle, Fiona. I understand the overarching premise of tackling waste, fraud, and abuse, and we're going to get into, that engineer and the jobs at the VA in terms of, website design, which was a gross overpayment for somebody doing that type of job. But that number rising 7 times, I think is very alarming right now. And there's a lot of Americans that I think people don't understand that there are people that work for the federal government, that work remote, that work in towns where you live. They work for Social Security, work for other different departments. They're all going to be infected and impacted by these cuts. And so the number is really, really alarming. To see it jump that high, like you just mentioned, 200% is truly alarming.
And I want to touch on that Veterans Affairs issue that you just mentioned there and that we heard earlier. So in your view, is a department like DOGE necessary when it comes to finding these questionable spending patterns, or do you think these departments themselves need to be beefing up their oversight here?
Yeah, I think it's the latter. Look, I mean, there's hypocrisy just in the name of finding a department of government efficiency, like starting an entire department just to do that, when there are already levers at these companies that should be doing this. But the reason why I wanted to highlight this, Fiona, is because I work in product and technology. I do website design, UI, UX. $380,000 for minor updates. I mean, I have somebody on retainer that I pay maybe $5,000 a month to do that. So that's a $375,000 saving I just found right now. So I get what DOGE's efforts is doing and finding something like this. I would argue, though, it's a little bit more, I'm trying to give a good analogy of like, how many instances of that do I find, multiply it by the X number, which is what they're saying they have found. So that's why when you see 7 times the amount of job cuts across departments, whether it be HHS, whether it be Department of Education, whether it be the Postmaster General announcing over 15,000, I think, or so layoffs, like something is up with that number being that astronomically high. I do agree, though, that these agencies should be regulating themselves. Somebody should have been in my shoes saying, why are we paying almost $400,000 for minor website design when we could hire somebody at a freelance level and pay them a retainer rate and save the department money? So I think it is a little bit, it's mostly of column B, but I think column A coming in and kind of outlining it, how many more instances of that are they going to find to be proven to be true? That's what the American people should be looking for.
Now, Mike, on your earlier point of potential reversals of some of the DOGE decisions right now, we are already seeing courts ruling that some of those fired probationary workers need to be reinstated. Are you saying that we're going to see more of that? Are we going to see more challenges there?
I do think we're going to see more of that. Well, first off, we're going to see challenges anyway, just in terms of, the legal beagles, chiming in on this. I know a few lawyers that are already involved in certain suits representing federal workers and challenging what DOGE has been doing and the executive branch's authority to cut this stuff. So be that as it may, the reason I think we're going to see more of this, Fiona, is because, these are a lot of nameless and faceless people that work across agencies. Whether or not the agency should exist, that is up to congressional discretion depending upon the agency. I know President Trump is trying to expedite that faster through executive order, and we're seeing challenges play out in court. But the reason I feel like we're going to see more of it is because these nameless and faceless people, a lot of the times, and DOGE has already admitted a few mistakes, like you pointed out, they're integral. Like they're working on certain things, whether it be scientific research, et cetera, like has been found already. And Elon Musk, to his credit and detriment, has mentioned already from the Oval Office, like you're seeing here, and he said it on Fox News, we're going to make a lot of cuts and then we're going to apologize later. I don't think that's the approach to have with this. I agree with you that there are redundancies and a way to eliminate redundancies at agencies and departments. The way they're going about it, Fiona, is not the way to go about it in my estimation. And that's why I think you're going to see suits continue to unfold until Musk leaves office and maybe throughout the rest of 2025.
Speaking of those suits, Mike, there's still that ongoing lawsuit against DOGE accessing sensitive government systems and records. And now, allegedly, we're hearing that a DOGE worker has read-only access to the unaccompanied alien children portal. Now, we're hearing critics saying that this portal has no financial or personal records. But why could DOGE need or think that it needs access to this portal?
Yeah, I mean, that's the question, Fiona. If a $64,000 question like the old game show, I wish I knew, because this has been something, and I just had Congressman Seth Moulton on the program talking about specifically certain things that DOGE has done and what he and other House Democrats have talked about the impact. I do not understand for the life of me, in talking to folks that cover immigration, why this type of sensitive information is in the purview of the Department of Government Efficiency, because it's not looking at the money that's being allocated to Customs Border Patrol or the immigration enforcement, or what DHS spends on an annual budget. Those are things that are within the purview, again, as outlined from the White House to Elon Musk to the transparency that DOGE is putting on their Twitter. We are the Department of Government Efficiency. We go in and we look at budgets and the way they're being allocated and the way we eliminate redundancies, headcount, whatever it is, gross overture spendings, like we just uncovered, like I mentioned before, with that $380,000 for the engineer on the website design. That's in their purview. Sensitive information is not in their purview. So I can't answer the question. Elon Musk needs to be asked this question. They should not have access to any type of sensitive information like this, because it doesn't pertain to what the Department of Government Efficiency is within their purview.
All right, Mike, I'm running out of time here, but let's step away from the federal government for a second, because Iowa formed its own DOGE task force, and then that task force just met for the first time yesterday. Could we be seeing more of these state-level DOGE initiatives?
I think for sure we are going to see them, at least on the Republican side, if again, and this is the big if, Fiona, because we just talked about this, right? Could there be a lot of lawsuits coming up and pending? Sure. And in the Iowa, the Democratic lead in the Iowa Senate said, Governor Reynolds is truly not focused on what Iowans want right now. And so I think we may see some replication of it in red-leaning states. Don't know about in blue-leaning states. But at the end of the day, like you said, there are levers in place for a lot of these agencies to understand what their operating budget should be and what they shouldn't be spending on, and where is the gross misspending. So I think, if anything, for good or bad, at least Elon Musk has shown people the ways to, or the ways not to, actually tackle inefficiency and wasteful spending that's happening in government.
All right, Mike Leon, thanks for coming on. Always great to see you.
Likewise, Fiona.
Conservative investors. What does the name Reagan mean to you? Reagan was the ultimate conservative. We at the Reagan Gold Group consider ourselves the ultimate conservative gold company. Do you, as a conservative investor, see the storm clouds of chaos and uncertainty approaching? We do. The stock market hates uncertainty, and there is lots of chaos on the horizon. High inflation, unsustainable debt, and political tensions are rattling the markets and creating volatility. Does your portfolio have an anchor in this storm? You have car insurance, homeowners insurance, and life insurance. But what about your retirement savings, your 401k? We urge all fellow conservative investors to learn about the one asset that could help keep your nest egg from cracking under all this economic pressure: gold. Call the Reagan Gold Group right now to get your free wealth protection kit and ask us how to get up to $15,000 in bonus coins.